Hello everybody, this is Starman and welcome to the first chapter of Let's Play Eric the Unready. Now, if you haven't heard of this game before, well, that's actually not too surprising. This game unfortunately sunk him to obscurity despite the fact that it has a lot to recommend it. It was made by Legend Entertainment, who they were a rather prominent adventure gaming company back in the day, founded by some of the people who left Infocom after it got bought out by Activision. And, well, even if you've never heard of Infocom, you probably know what it means when a company gets bought out by Activision. And unfortunately, Infocom was one of the first companies that they drove under in their effort to grab big names and, profit off of them. But Eric the Unready was one of the first adventure games that Legend made that was a hybrid between the text adventures that Infocom was famous for and the point-and-click adventures that were starting to become prominent at that time. And it was probably the last text adventure that Legend Games made. And after this, they became somewhat more famous for having made point-and-click adventures and managing to get a lot of very good fantasy author licenses. They did adaptations of the Wheel of Time books, Pierce Anthony's Zamp series, Spider Robinson's Callahan's Cross Time Saloon, and a couple of other rather prominent franchises, Terry Brooks, of course. And Eric the Unready is weird in that it kind of stands as a gap between the two eras, because they made some good comedy games starting out. Steve Merzetsky's famous spellcasting series, which I'll probably do a Let's Play of eventually. But this game, instead of being a comedy in its own right, was more of a satire of a lot of the fantasy adventure games that are being published at that time. In fact, there's quite a few references to them throughout, which I'll point out in case you don't spot them yourself. But yeah, this game was the brainchild of Bob Bates, who was a programmer and game designer for Infocom right before they got bought out by Activision. And he co-designed the spellcasting series, Spellcasting 101, Spellcasting 201, and so forth with Steve Merzetsky. And Merzetsky is believed to have had a hand in some of the writing for this. There's a couple of references to him and a couple of gags that definitely seem to have his touch to it. And I apologize if I mispronounce his last name, but I'm going from memory off of this. So, another neat thing about this game is, well, you'll note the box art that we have here, which I set up as the view for this little introduction. That is, of course, Boris Vallejo's artwork. And if you don't know Boris Vallejo by name, you've probably seen him. He is a rather famous fantasy artist who has done movie posters, book covers. He has a calendar that comes out every year with his wife, Julie Bell, another great fantasy artist. And most of his work shows, muscular barbarians fighting giant monsters, common theme. And this box art tells you that this is not going to be your standard fantasy adventure. It's as much a parody of Vallejo art as this game is a parody of your standard knight rescue the princess story. But another thing that's interesting about this game is that it, along with a lot of the old Infocom games, is you can now play this one in your browser for free on archive.org, which backs up many interesting websites, a lot of old movies that are in the public domain, and now games which have been abandoned by the publisher for one reason or another. So, once you're done watching this video, you can go and play the game for yourself, should you be so inclined, and do it free of charge. So, with no further ado, let's get to our epic quest. Just in case you forgot who made this game after the first two times we mentioned it in the credits. And huzzah! We have a title! And it came to pass that Sir Eric rode out from the castle of King Fudd the Bewildered to do battle with the Knight of the Black Pauldron. There he goes now. Then did our goodly knight gaze upon the face of his opponent, and it befell that he forgot the words of the challenge he must utter in order that the contest might commence. Therefore did Eric consult that most ancient and sacred tome of chivalry, how to joust. But Sir Eric's visor did smash shut upon his face, and the sacred book did fall unto the ground. And when the knight made once again to raise up his visor, then did the point of his lance become impaled upon the branches above. Gadzooks, quoth Sir Eric, my lance is stuck. Then came there a deluge of apples, which did unhorse the dread foe. Thus did Eric the Unready become victorious over the dreaded Knight of the Black Pauldron, although he was wearing purple. On the eve of that same day, Duke Theobald the Erratic threw open his feasting hall to celebrate the defeat of that dread knight, who had held the Duke's castle in his thrall. "A toast!" cried Sir Eric. The guests, sensing impending disaster, fled for their lives. Except for the one who just sat there like a total schmuck. Oops! The following morning, the shop steward of Knights Union Local 704 confronted Sir Eric. Let me review for you the highlights of your career thus far. While still in night school, you impaled an instructor who was standing next to a dummy during jousting practice. Last month, you burned down Ulrich's house of torches when you left the door open on a windy day. And yesterday, you destroyed the feasting hall of Duke Theobald the Erratic. From now on, you will receive only those quests which I deem suitable for your obviously limited talents. The shop steward glances down at the paper in his hands and says, "Here's the perfect thing. This morning, a farmer came into the Union Hall and said a passing witch had turned his only daughter into a pig. Your quest today, Sir Eric, is to go to his farm and break the enchantment by kissing the pig. Here's your work slip. I don't want to see your face again until the task is done." "Well, here we are," says the farmer. He opens the gate and brings you into the farmyard. He points to the pig running around in the yard and says, "There she is. One good kiss ought to do it." Slowly you approach the pig. She eyes you warily. You bend down to kiss her, but she squeals in terror and bolts into the privy. Seconds later, you hear a squishy plop. "Now you done it," complains the farmer. "Some hero you are. Well, don't just stand there. Get cracking." And you'll note immediately that we have the unique hybrid interface here. We have a mouse that does allow us to click on the window here. But we've also got a compass that shows us which directions we can move, which we can use for navigation. We've also got a help and different ways of changing the screen around, so we can move to have a half interface. Then have the menu one where we have this here, and then we can click on the items that we should interact with. Yeah, enter armor. Hardly possible considering you're wearing the armor. And if we just want to do a straight text-based interface for all of you old-school Infocom enthusiasts, do you really want to restart? Yes. Well, I didn't think we were going to go that far back. Let's see, F1 for this display, F2 for menu mode. Ah, okay. Okay. I could do this in text mode, but I think you all would like to see the pictures. Makes this video much more interesting when you can see things, doesn't it? Anyway, we have a list of common commands that we might need, and slightly less common commands here, like escape. You can't go that way. Standard issue helmet. And we examine the farmer. He's just a rusty old guy with a weathered face and a full beard. Something about the look in his eye makes you think he doesn't care much for city folk. And of course, we can talk to the farmer. Although talking to characters rarely does anything more useful than giving you a couple of good jokes. And make no mistakes, whatever you may think about this game, the humor is top-notch for the most part. Tell me about your daughter again? A passing witch turned her into a pig, and now she's fallen into the privy. Your job is to get her out. Then you gotta kiss her to break the enchantment. Will you sign my work slip now? You're not done yet, lad. Sign it, and I'll sign it when you finish the job. I'm sorry I killed your rooster when I first got here. I'd like to replace him. Fine. Come back tomorrow morning. I'll introduce you to the hens. What's in the barn? Just a bunch of old veterinary supplies. You can keep whatever you find. Been nice talking to you. I guess I better get back to work. Okay, well, he offered us veterinary supplies, so... Let's see. The barn is old but clean. The floor has been swept and everything seems pretty much in place. The cows are all well groomed and they are continually chewing on their cuds in a manner vaguely reminiscent of the farmer. Set into one wall is a closed medicine chest. A rope hangs on the wall and the exit to the farmyard lies to the east. Now let's go ahead and get the rope. Your score has just gone up by 2. Note, you can activate and deactivate the score change notification using the notify command. Alright then, let's try and open the door, or the medicine chest. You open the medicine chest. You open the medicine chest and discover a vial, a bottle, and a flask. Okay, let's examine... Copectate, bovine binding agent. Tort-ease, turtle muscle relaxant. Hogwild, porcine aphrodisiac. Well, we'll just grab everything. Now it looks like we only need to use one of those, or 2 of those, because we got points for it. Okay, we'll close the cabinet. And I'm going to go ahead and save the game here. Because part of the fun of these games is, of course, what sick and twisted things you can type into the text parser. But because it is not enough for me to play this very silly game, I have procured, from the very depths of time itself, a list of the funniest things you can do while playing this game. Just to see what happens. And some of these can be done at any time. So we'll go ahead and step outside to do these really quick, because some of these could potentially get you killed. Or so it says. Anyway, you are standing in a tired-looking farmyard that is in absolutely no danger of finding itself pictured on the cover of Better Homes and Barnyards. An aging barn lies to the west, and to the northeast is a small shack with a crescent moon over the door. A weather-beaten farmer is staring at you impassively, his expression vaguely reminiscent of a cow. Okay, well, first thing, look at the sun. You should never look at the sun unless it's an eclipse, and you should have one of those little cardboard box things with a hole in it, and your parents are nearby. Unless, of course, you want to go blind, but that's what you want. There are probably more fun ways to do it, which I probably shouldn't go into here. Okay. Attack the farmer. You find yourself standing up on the staring up at the farmer from behind your back. Nice try, city boy, he drawls. Now get to work. Okay. Blow, farmer. This game has far too much class to respond to that input. No, it doesn't. It doesn't? No! Well then, you remove all the farmer's clothes and... No, I just can't do this. Go on. No, and that's fine. We'll have to play buy a different game if you want that sort of thing. What, like the spellcasting series? Well, yes. By Steve Maretsky? Yes. Now go away. You're interfering with the game. Right, bye then. This game has a very Monty Python-ish sense of humor, in case you haven't noticed. And there's going to be a lot of Mel Brooksian fourth wall breaking as well. So, if you're looking for a nice, serious, respectful Let's Play, you want to go someplace else. So, got that, then kiss me. Congratulations, you win the Narcissist of the Month award, breaking a string of 87 consecutive months when it was awarded to Madonna. Kick me. You tape a big kick me sign to your back and settle in to wait. Sure enough, before too long, a busload of high school sophomores shows up. They spend a few enjoyable moments booting you in the pants and blowing spitballs at you, but all too soon the fun is over. They take the sign, get on the bus, and roar out of sight. Okay? Kill me. But without you, this story would be so uninteresting. Would you really like to die? No. That's better. Glad to see you're feeling more chipper. Yes. You would? Yes. Are you very, very sure? Yes. Okay, bye-bye. You have failed. But thankfully, another nice thing about the Legend games is that you have an undo button that lets you immediately undo whatever stupid thing you did to get killed, which lets you test stuff like this with a bit more impunity. Anyway, kill me. Yes. No. That's better. Now get back to the game. Yes. Yes. No. Whew. Okay, shoot me. With what, your finger? Push me. You give yourself a little shove. Surprise, you shove back. Angered at your response, you push yourself even harder than the first time. Things quickly escalate, and soon you are beating yourself silly. Fortunately, referee Nymph shows up and stops the fight, declaring the bout a draw. This means that the championship belt will not go to the challenger unless a rematch can be arranged. Okay, and make faces. Okay, make face. You do a quick imitation of Harpo Mark listening to opera music, but amuse only yourself and me. Okay, and kiss ground. Like Lindbergh landing in France, you give the ground a nice wet smack. After wiping the dust from your lips, you wonder if he gave it a French kiss. And finally, now is not a good time for a dip. Not that I think you're a dip, understand? I just mean you might get it over your head. Not over your head isn't completely lost without a clue, of course. I mean all wet. But not the kind of all wet that means, oh, never mind, just stay out of the water. Yes, you can. This happens whenever you try and swim someplace when there is not water. And the rest of the stuff on the list here is not relevant to where we are. So, let's get back to business somewhat and examine the privy. It's a creaky wooden door with a crescent moon cut into it. At the moment, the door is open. No, it isn't. Yeah, there's a cobweb here. Doesn't seem to be a cobweb here. Well, funny, the list I says to examine the cobweb in the barn, unless that means the privy. Well, since I did save the game, I'm going to try and do some very stupid stuff. I'm going to take all these drugs that I just found. Remember, kids, do not drink drugs you find in the medicine cabinet in real life. You toss back the murky liquid in one mighty swallow. Your insides instantly seize up, your stomach puckers, and your bowels send word they're closed for the season. Seconds later, the flask vanishes into thin air. Yep. Okay, let's try drinking the hog wild. You swallow the aphrodisiac and suddenly feel tingly all over. A few minutes later, you are overcome by a sudden, irresistible urge for a ham sandwich. Abandoning your quest, you strike out in search of the nearest deli. You have failed. And while we're here, let's give calpectate to the cows. Believe me, if the cows had a problem with diarrhea, you'd be the first to know. And while we're at it, smell. Smells kind of chalky. Smell hog wild. All the little hairs you know start to stingle. This must be pretty powerful stuff. Smell tortoise. It has a lemon fresh scent. Marketing weasels are just as stupid on tourists as they are on Earth. Okay. Well, enough of this. Let's go into the privy. The inside of the privy is small, cramped, and smelly. It has the requisite graffiti on the wall, as well as a few magazines that you hope are intended for reading. The bench is a one-holer, and through that hole you see a pig happily rolling around in the muck below. There's a hook on the wall. The only way out is the small door back to the southwest that leads back to the farmyard. On the bench you see a newspaper. Alright, get newspaper. Your score has just gone up by 2. And yeah, we will have a newspaper to read every day. Eric duplicates Miracle of Loaves and Fishes. Yeah, this is the Taurus Inquirer, a square paper for Around World, the Saturday edition. Thousands of pilgrims feast on fruit sent from heaven. And let's click through the items here. Duke Theobald's castle burns. The feasting hall of Duke Theobald the Erratic burned to the ground last night during a celebratory luncheon honoring the retirement of the Knight of the Black Pauldron, who had held the castle in his thrall for the past 20 years. It is time for me to move on, said the knight prior to the blaze. I've got a nice piece of land picked out near the inner sea. The people there seem nice, and I can terrorize them part-time and still have plenty of evenings and weekends free for collecting shells. Fudd's last week. According to ancient prophecy, King Fudd the Bewildered will die this coming Saturday. The Taurus Inquirer learned that he plans to spend his last week of life closeted in his chambers playing with toy soldiers. And classifieds, which will be filled with many amusing literary references, and 1 or 2 really annoying and stupid ones. Personal. Single white female. Capulet. Seeks handsome and daring partner for life. Must have good balcony climbing skills. Send woodcut and resume to Friar Lawrence. No Montagues, please. That is, of course, a reference to Romeo and Juliet. Help wanted. Merrymen. Established outlaw seeks support group. Successful candidates will have experience sleeping in forest, as well as hands-on experience in well-free distribution programs. Clearly, that is from Robin of Locksley. For sale. Boy's Crutch. Hardly used. Cash only. Contact Ebenezer S. Well, I don't think that one requires explanation now, does it? Career opportunity. In a rut, tired of the same dull drudgery of peasantry, enroll at the Columbia School of Abacus Training and become an abacus operator. In 6 short months, you'll be ready to enter the exciting world of abaci. Learn the differences between the pineapple and little blue brands. Master the incompatibilities in bead colors, wire sizes, and horizontal versus vertical frame orientation. Not affiliated with the Columbia School of Piracy or any other institution. General interest. Holy Grail Tours. Don't have time to track down the Grail on your own? Why reinvent the wheel? Join one of our tours. The Quest Bus leaves daily from Glastonbury Square. Call 1-800-BUSTERS and ask for Shay. Lost. 1 warship, fully manned. Reward. Contact W. Bly, Pitcairn Island. Let's see. Examine the privy. The real estate brochure describes it as an intimate rural outbuilding full of rustic charm. By and large, the people of Taurus regard real estate brochures themselves as being full of rustic charm. And as long as we're in here, clean the privy. You do some quick calculations involving 7 maids and 7 mops, and then abandon the idea as economically impractical. And one more fun thing, smoke the rope. Sorry, it's not that kind of rope. Still, it's nice to be another refugee from the 60s. Alright. And one more funny one on the list. Smell privy. There are many things which are a delight to the olfactory senses. This privy is not one of them. Oh, and because this is in fact an adult game, we can do a couple of things. Moon Farmer. Nice smile, but I think it's sideways. Now cover up your butt and get on with it. And we can, of course... You flutter your eyelids at the farmer, but get no response. Alright. Well, the solution here is fairly obvious, given everything we've got so far, isn't it? But because we're not quite done, yeah, we've got Hen House Magazine, Privy Jokes. You pick up one of the magazines and flip through it. Your ears quickly turn red and you hastily replace it, reflecting that Chivalry School might have skipped over a few place spots in your education. Alright, well obviously we need to tie the rope. Okay, yeah. It is going to be a stickler for order. So tie rope to hook. You tie one end of the rope to the hook and throw the other end into the privy, which now gives us a means of climbing down. But first, let's examine the graffiti. Flush choice. It's a long way to the cup and sorcerer. Underneath that, somebody's written, "What's a flush?" Underneath that, somebody's written, "It's what comes right before a full house." And underneath that, someone has written something that's been crossed out several times, although the words performer and theater are still legible. Alright, let's go down. Not like that. You grab the rope and squeeze yourself down through the narrow hole in the bench. Once through, you slide the rest of the way down into the rope and fall into the muck below the disgusting plop. Up to your knees in it. You're up to your knees in stuff. A rope hanging from above provides the only exit. A startled pig is here, eyeing you warily. Well, let's do it. Kiss pig. Nothing happens. Perhaps the enchantment will only be broken if the farmer is present. And okay, because I know you're begging for it. Every once in a while, people ask me what I do for a living. I tell them mostly I sit around anticipating the things the players will try to do in a game. Of all the people I have ever said that to, not one has ever replied, "Oh, like fuck pig?" And as long as we're down here, one more funny thing. A waiter appears out of nowhere, sets up an elegant table, and lays a place setting for one. He lights the candelabra and says, "Our specials today are shit pate, shit under glass, roast shit, broccoli, and shit Florentine. For a one we have... He then stops in mid-sentence and slaps himself forward. "Oh my gods, we're out of wine! You can't eat shit without wine! I'm so embarrassed!" He then packs up his material and disappears. Okay, yeah, not the cat. Get pig. You dive at the pig, but manage to wrap your arms around it. A loud squeal and a kick wriggle loosens your grip and leaves you face down in the muck. You pull yourself up to plant your feet for another try. Anyway. One more thing. Let us get the shit. You scoop up 2 big fistfuls of the stuff and squeeze really tight. It oozes out between your fingers. You haven't had this much fun since the time you were a kid and you told little Mary Jane a joke while she was drinking her milk and made her cough it up through her nose. Alright, what we actually have to do is give the pig aphrodisiac to the pig. The pig eagerly sucks down the contents of the bottle, which magically vanishes into thin air. A shiver passes through the sow's body, and she suddenly seems much more interested in you than before. Without warning, she makes a leap for your leg, wraps her own stubby legs around it, and hangs on for dear life. Okay, let's go up. You climb back up the rope, dragging the pig along with you. And head southwest. Okay. You stumble out of the privy, dragging the pig along with you. "I've done it," you announce to the farmer. "Here's your pig. If you'll just sign the work slip, I'll be on my way." The farmer remains expressionless. "You're not done yet, lad." He says, "That's still my only daughter. You gotta kiss her and remove the enchantment. But remember, no tongues." The pig bats her eyelashes, puckers her lips, and wiggles her haunches suggestively. Alright. Slowly, your lips approach those of the slime-covered animal. Finally, you close your eyes, take the plunge, and give the pig a resounding smack right on the lips. At that moment, you hear a voice from beyond the gate. "Hello, Daddy, I'm back. Did you miss me? I just popped over to Auntie May's to get some apples." She catches sight of your manure-covered figure. "Ugh, who's that?" The pig drops off your leg and trots over to the girl to investigate her apples. The farmer looks embarrassed for a tenth of a second and then says, Well, sorry about that. No harm done, though. Why don't you go into the barn and wash up, and I'll fill out your work slip." The pig's gaze is fixed on the girl's beautiful apples. The girl's apples are luscious and beautiful. She looks like a typical farmer's daughter with great-looking apples. And, fun thing, you can get different comments out of people after you've completed their quests. "Will you sign my work slip now?" "Certainly. Go in the barn, wash up. I'll sign it when you get back." You didn't actually see the witch this morning, did you? Well, no, but my daughter disappeared and I saw some straw on the ground, so I thought, would you come by in her room and turn her into a pig? Anyone would have made the same mistake. I think I'm in love. I don't care how good a kisser she is, the pig stays here. Been nice chatting with you. And we can, of course, also talk to the farmer's daughter. I'm a mighty knight, fabled in legend and song. I see. First you fell in it, and now you're full of it. I think your father likes me. Oh, don't take it personally. He doesn't like any bumbling idiots. Where's your mother? A passing witch cast a spell on her and turned her into a chicken. We were gonna ask Wizard to break the spell, but then Father decided we could really use the eggs. But would you like to go out with me sometime next month? Sorry, I'll be washing my hair next month. Say, nice apples. Thank you. We grow them big around here. I've got to go now. Bye. Alright. Let's go clean up. You walk into the barn covered head to toe with muck. To the cows you look like a monster from Return of the Swamp Thing. They bolt from their stalls and stampede for the door. Knocking out the main strut that holds up the barn. As the barn begins to collapse around your ears, you hear a low rumble and realize from long experience this is the time to make your exit. The score just went up by 25 points. While trudging the long miles back to the village, you hear hoofbeats behind you. The royal carriage of Princess L'Oreal the Worthy comes over the hill and pulls to a halt beside you. Whither goest thou, Sir Knight? Calls the princess from the carriage. To the castle, my lady. Then ride with me in my carriage. By my troth, I cannot, my lady, for I am covered in filth and would befoul the presence of one so fair as yourself. Nonsense, cries the princess. Hop in. You are most kind, my lady, to have pity on a poor knight in my condition. Think nothing of it. You're Eric, aren't you? I've seen you around the village. Yes, my lady, I am that unfortunate he who is barely worthy of the name knight. Don't be daft. I think you're a perfectly good knight who's just had a run of bad luck. You keep trying, that's the main thing. If I ever got in trouble, I'd much rather be rescued by you than one of those stuck-up prima donnas who come preening around the castle. Fear not, my lady. No one would dare harm the daughter of good King Fudd. To do so would incur the wrath of the Flower of Chivalry, the Knights of the Rhomboid Table. No one would be so foolish to take that risk, even for one so beautiful as yourself. Smooth talker. Oh, do go on, but I hope you're right, for it would break my father's heart if anything were to happen to me. Well, I see we've arrived at the castle. I have to go see my father, but I hope I can see you again soon. Bye-bye. You awaken to a new day. You're lying on your bed in the castle barracks. You try to get up but discover that you can't. You recall that you were so tired last night that you tumbled into your bed without removing your armor. After your excursion into the privy that appears to have been a bad move, now the armor is rusted shut. Barracks on the bed. These are the Spartan living quarters of those knights who don't earn enough money to have their own castle. Currently, you are the only resident. The only exit is to the east. On the bed, you see a card. And this seems like a good point to stop for now. So we will go ahead and save the game. And next time, we shall start here and continue the quests of Eric the Unready. Verily, I shall see thee then.